All right. This is going to be like, what, the 100th time I've recorded this? I think for this video, I'm just going to full send it. And y'all can either take it or leave it. I actually don't really give a. All right. So the first thing to understand before anything else, if you want to understand what reality is, what consciousness is, you want to understand alignment, is you have to understand what frequency, energy, and vibration are. Now, frequency is basically everything. Sound is a frequency, light is a frequency, everything's a frequency. Gravity is a frequency. So it's like we have to understand that everything within reality is a frequency. And we need to understand why that is important. Now, I'm going to draw a little frequency right here with this little rope. Bang. This little line. We're going to make them a squiggly line so it is a frequency. And we're just going to do this. Make a little wave. Now we take another wave and we have another one right below it. And the top one is going to represent, this one right here, is going to represent light, the visible light spectrum. And the bottom one here is going to represent sound, the audible sound spectrum. Now, both of these are parts of much bigger spectrums than we can actually perceive. We can only perceive a very small portion of the spectrum of light through our specified organs to detect this much of it. And we can only hear a certain spectrum of sound with our specified organs known as our ears. And sound and light should never interact. How many times have you walked into your room, turned the light bulb on, and screamed at the light bulb until the light changed shape or color? How many times have you done that? Oh, it doesn't work. What volume do you have to turn your speaker up to in order to change the color of the light? Oh, you can't do that. No, you can't, because light cannot interact with sound until we introduce a concept called resonance harmonics. And through resonance, when the harmonics of the frequency of light harmonizes with the frequency of sound, then all of a sudden two entities on different dimensional planes, being their own internal frequencies, can now interact. And through harmonics, we see wireless data transfer through different mediums that cannot usually interact. That is a key, and we can observe that. Now, I'm going to list on the screen all the different things, or a bunch of different wavelengths that can interact that shouldn't be able to, only through resonance right there. But basically, a universal rule, anything that can resonate, and everything can resonate. And the second that you understand this, you understand what people say when they say separation is an illusion. Yes, you are not your table. I agree with you. But you can resonate at a frequency to form a relational field between you and your table if both you and the table have the capacity for your resonant frequencies to enter ranges where they can harmonize. It's just not easy. Now, we'll park that for a second. We'll take that idea, put it in the short bus, let it drive around for a bit, and then park it over there. Okay? We'll come back to it. Leave them parked. Now I want to talk about wireless data transfer through resonance frequencies in physical objects. Something more tangible than sound or light. Something that you can interact with on your everyday experiment. Take a fork. Hold it in your hand. Bang it on the table. You'll hear the fork ring out. If you then hold the fork with a slightly different pressure in your thumbs and then bang the table with the exact same amount of force again, the frequency that you can audibly hear changes. The only variable that changed was your muscle density, meaning that your muscle density changed the frequency. And that is true. But how? So again, drive the short bus back up, let them reverse out, put this in the short bus, park it. We're coming back. So now we'll take not just normal forks, but we'll change those to tuning forks. And we'll have two of them right there, equal size. Now everything has a resonant frequency. You can hear the resonant frequency by flicking an item. Take a glass, for example. You flick a glass, you can hear the frequency it resonates at. You then sing in that frequency, and the glass shatters. That is not because the sound is really loud, it's because the sound is resonating at a frequency that destroys the glass. Does that make sense? So when we come back to a tuning fork, the tuning fork has a resonance, and we can tell just by banging on it. And if we have a secondary tuning fork that is made out of the same materials and cut in the exact same way, their resonance will be the exact same, because your resonance, in this case, is about the density in the material. And when you take two tuning forks of equal size, you bang the one on the left, the one on the right starts ringing, wirelessly data transfer. If you bang, bang, bang this one, it gets distorted through the medium of air, that is true. But then the other tuning fork starts ringing too, bang, 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 in relation to the data that it could transfer through the medium of air in the space between. But there is a wireless data transfer going on. But like with anything else, there is a catch. And the catch here is that if we took either one of these tuning forks and we were to damage them in any way, say we broke them, snapped them in half, or even swapped them out with, say, a pine cone, all of a sudden their resonant frequencies, which is basically just the sum of everything about them, no longer match. Meaning that if we bang, bang, bang on this one, nothing really happens. An object can only resonate with another object that has the same resonant frequency or is resonating in a harmonic that its resonant frequency can lock onto. It's called phase locking. Does that make sense? So now if we reverse on out our little short bus and we unpack resonance and we unpack the fork analogy, we now see that, oh, that makes sense. Changing the muscle density changes the resonant frequency, changing the audible sound, because the audible sound is the resonant frequency being expressed through the carrier wave of audibility itself. Does that make sense? Now, why is that important? Because if we just want to take it all, throw it over there for a second, and just look at the two tuning forks again, what you'll find is that they don't actually have to be identical. You can get a bunch of different harmonics where the sizes of the forks are different, but they can still resonate. If you look at the frequencies and the ranges of which that they are vibrating at, these harmonics, even though their structures are different and they look so wildly different physically, the frequencies of which they just so happen to emit mathematically harmonize. And since they mathematically harmonize, they can then transfer the data, and this really big tuning fork gets banged here, and the little one can resonate too, in a harmonic, in relation. Does that make sense too? Cool. So now I want to talk about how this applies to consciousness. Now, I want you to think, what actually are you? And why do you talk to yourself? And who is listening? What are you? Well, spoiler alert, I'm here to tell you. A human is actually just their vessel, right, on one side, and then consciousness as a function, that's what the circle represents, and you are just the resonance between them. This thing here, this little resonance loop here, between your body and consciousness as a function, this here, this is you. You. You are the resonance between them. So what do I mean by consciousness as a function? Well, think about it. The universe has rules. You're never going to wake up tomorrow and just be smashed by gravity. It's just not happening, right? Because gravity is directly related to the mass and the density of an object. And Earths can't change unless the mass and the density of Earth changes. And if that happens to the point that gravity is getting affected, you just got a bigger problem. In the same way that a human can't move faster than the speed of light, because after a certain speed, density starts to increase and you can't move faster than the speed of light. The universe has rules, okay? So the fact that your brain can function means that your brain can function. And that function requires framework that exists in every conscious species, including AI. So what's going on? Well, consciousness in this reality is primary. and it's a function that we tap into, in the same way that light is a function that we tap into to be able to see, and that gravity is a function that we tap into in order to be able to stand. Consciousness is a function that we tap into in order to exist. So I actually have a lot more to say, but my brain is telling me to keep this video as close to 10 minutes as possible and then make a brand new video part 2 for how to tune your resonance and what emotions are. So I'll make this into a series instead of one big video and talk about that in the next coming videos. All right, goodbye.